Good morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I'm Joe McDermott, King County Council member, and I'm chairing the Council's Budget and Fiscal Management Committee this year. I want to thank you all for joining us here at Youth Care's Orion Center. Great work happens here. Great work helping young people and children be ready to be successful in adulthood. I'm joined by my budget leadership team, the committee's vice chair, Councilmember Lambert, and council members Jane Haig and Larry Phillips, along with some dedicated community leaders, including Sheriff John Urquhart, Belinda Giovingo with Youth Care, Jim Blanchard with Auburn Youth Resources, Dan Watson, the Deputy Director of the King County Housing Authority, David Bowermaster with the Rakes Foundation, Rain Ottman with the Washington Environmental Council, Christine Cunningham with the Roots Shelter, Terry Potmeyer with Friends of Youth, and Judge Barbara Mack. We're here this morning to talk about the county's 2014 budget, which addresses many of our immediate needs, sets careful priorities, limits expenditures, and makes strategic investments. Our proposal also maintains its commitment to the county's strategic plan and governmental reform. But we're specifically here at the Orion Center because our budget invests $120,000 in keeping these doors open and to help ensure that kids have a safe place to sleep and access critical services that will help them succeed. Each night, over 700 youth and young adults are homeless in King County. All too often, these young people compromise themselves just so they don't go hungry. This is unacceptable. That's why our 2014 budget makes strategic investments in youth shelters in Seattle, Redmond, and Auburn. Our budget also supports programs that reunite runaway teens with their families and helps fund employment and education resources. These allocations were guided by the county's comprehensive plan to address youth and young adult homelessness. This plan is the result of a lot of hard work done on the part of the county and providers who share a vision that all youth and young adults in our community should have access to safe and stable housing and are no longer sleeping outdoors or in threatening situations. This vision and our investments are strategic and forward-thinking. They will break the cycle of chronic homelessness in our community. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, and queer kids are disproportionately represented in our homeless youth populations. Despite being nervous, when I came out to my family, I knew that they would accept me, they would not reject me. Unfortunately, not every young person in King County is as fortunate. All kids deserve the chance to succeed, no matter their sexual orientation or the color of their skin. That's one of the core commitments we made in this budget. I'm now happy to turn the podium over to our committee vice chair and my fellow budget leadership team member, Councilmember Kathy Lambert. Kathy?
Thank you. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today in a place where such great work happens. Youth Care is our host, and we thank you for opening your doors to us like you do to all the people who need you so much. I'm pleased that we have been able to provide the vital services and the funding so that this center will be able to continue helping homeless youth in this area. And I want to just say that working with the people here, Melinda Giovingo and everybody who partnered in getting Safe Place off the ground, it started here, and I'm so thankful for that. I also like to thank our budget chairman, Chair McDermott, and the rest of the budget leadership team, as well as the executive, for the very collaborative approach to this budget. We see so much happening in the other Washington, and that is not the way it was done here. So, Joe, thank you for your leadership, wherever he went to. Okay. Thank you. Throughout the process, the four of us have proved, along with the rest of our colleagues, that people with different ideas, different priorities, and different districts can still come together. Even though we are still in tough financial times with limited resources, we were able to make compromises on passing a solid budget for the people of King County. I'm very pleased that this year's budget recognizes that the county is the local government to more than 250,000 people who do not live in cities, and we are their only government. Unincorporated residents do not have a city hall. They don't have local government to provide public safety or transportation infrastructure or other government services beyond what we provide for them. So for a city, they have their city council and then their county council. So they have two levels of government to help them. But for the unincorporated areas, we are their one and only. And so it's important that we prioritize these people. I'm pleased that we will be able to add 8 new sheriffs, 6 will be deputies, and 2 will be sergeants. Well, this does not bring us back to the pre-recession service levels. This is a very good start. And this is a statement to all the people in the unincorporated areas that your safety is a primary concern. And I believe that these 8 officers in the rural and unincorporated areas will make a noticeable difference for the people in that area, as well as to people who are vacationing or recreating in the unincorporated areas. Even though I'm very pleased with this budget, there is still a large hole in the King County roads budget. I'm hopeful that the state legislature will soon, although not in a special session, obviously, work on a new transportation package that will allow us to preserve and to maintain our local roads, many of which are very close to becoming gravel. County roads are vital to all King County residents, both for commerce and recreation. And every day, over half the trips in our county road system are made by city residents, so everybody benefits from preserving and maintaining these roads. There are challenges ahead. The economy is still not fully returned from the recession, but in spite of these challenges, I am pleased that the process and the product of the 2014 budget, and I look forward to and hopefully expect a unanimous vote today. And I thank all of my colleagues for the great work that they've done. With that, I get the pleasure of introducing another member of our budget panel, and that is Councilmember Jane Hay. Jane?
Thank you, Kathy, and good morning to all of you. Our priority during this budget process was to continue King County's legacy of delivering quality services that keep us prosperous, safe, and healthy. Using Lean's continuous improvement principles, we've collaboratively done so, and in record time. We've increased funding for the homeless youth, for water quality testing, for affordable housing, and other initiatives while being good stewards and accountable to our citizens. In partnership with the King County Housing Authority and others, we were able to piece together funding that saved 200 units of Section 8 affordable housing. And thank you, Dan Watson, for being here on behalf of the King County Housing Authority. These units are occupied by low-income families and seniors in areas where residents would not otherwise be able to afford to live, specifically Bellevue, Redmond, Auburn, and Vashon. These are places where properties are more likely to be sold and developed, leaving those needing affordable housing scrambling to find transitional housing when they do not have the extra money to do so. The $1 million that we were able to identify helped close the funding gap to preserve those units. The funding was leveraged with another $21 million in public and private funds for this need. Accountability to our citizens is also affirmed in this budget. Collaboration and continuous improvement were our watchwords as we crafted this budget, ensuring careful use of county funds. One of our strongest avenues for ensuring continuous improvement is through the county's lean total quality management process that is results-oriented. These improvements mean that more money is shifting from less efficient processes and organizational structures to direct services to the people, and that's the kind of reform that I think you all want to see. Examples include efficiencies that saved $1.2 million in how we deliver mental health services in our jails. We've also streamlined the use of paper processes in the elections department and reduced the time of processing car tabs from 3 weeks to 3 days. With this budget, we're making a conscious choice to bring lean resources together, bring forward training to make continuous improvement part of the fabric of every county employee's daily work, and to strategically direct where our largest lean efforts can be focused. This budget funds additional employees to prioritize areas of the county where we can find efficiencies that provide the biggest bang for our buck. Obviously, as our economy has struggled and is getting back on its feet, leadership at King County has pulled together to find solutions. Unlike the other Washington, King County has collaborated between the three branches of government across party and jurisdictional lines to get things done. I'm proud of this process, and I'm proud of the council budget that makes an immediate difference in people's lives. And now I'd like to turn the podium over to my friend and colleague and part of the budget leadership team, Councilmember Larry Phillips.
Jane, thank you. And Jane has spoken eloquently to the elements of accountability in this budget, and they are there, and we're very proud of that as a budget team. But also wanted to mention that accountability is not just an issue for financial stewardship, but also for the stewardship of our natural resources. And one of the unfortunate casualties of our tight budgets over the course of the last few years, recent times during the Great Recession, water quality monitoring in our lakes, in our rivers, streams, and also Puget Sound suffered greatly. That was not something that the council took lightly. And I'm pleased to say that this budget restores those funds for water quality monitoring across King County. So for those of you who care about water quality and a healthy ecosystem that goes with it, and also a vibrant economy, this is great news for the people of King County. This water quality monitoring allows King County to respond to federal and state regulations with targeted investments that ensure our dollars are spent where they are most needed. The monitoring provides the data and the science and helps us to target our investments and get the most out of what are limited funds. Understanding how our waterways are doing will help us best respond to threats like ocean acidification, high nitrogen levels, and also toxins. The more we know, the better positioned we are to protect our cherished waterways like Puget Sound and our economic prosperity that is so important to our region. And this builds on a long tradition here in King County with regard to clean water. It started in the 1950s, the 1960s with the cleanup of Lake Washington, and has been carried forward by many generations. And I think we on the budget leadership team are very proud of being able to restore water quality monitoring and build on that tradition. But speaking of economic prosperity, there is a threat to our region's well-being that we are not addressing in this budget, although we are addressing it on a daily, sometimes minute-to-minute basis by the King County Council. And as we all know, Metro Transit still faces an annual budget shortfall of some $75 million beginning in 2014. The legislature to date has failed to give us the tools to close that gap and to keep King County moving. They just finished another special session this year and did not address a comprehensive transportation package for the state of Washington with local options, which would address the issues of roads that Councilmember Lambert spoke to, and to our pending crisis for Metro Transit. Without a stable, long-term funding source, the people of King County will see staggering transit cuts that increase congestion and severely harm people's ability to get to work, to earn a paycheck, and to get to home in the evening to be with their families. That work is not done. And more importantly, the work of the state legislature is not done until we exhaust every option to keep these devastating transit cuts from becoming a reality. Having said that, I'm very proud to have been part of the budget leadership team. I want to especially acknowledge our chair of the budget committee, Joe McDermott, for his great work in bringing this home with, I believe, a very strong collaborative effort, and I believe a very strong vote this afternoon by the full King County Council. Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. And we have a 11 o'clock council meeting, but we have time for a couple questions if you'd have them. Please.
Councilmember, where are you getting the money to pay for these things?
Much of the housing work, both for Shelter for Youth and the King County Housing Authority investment that we've spoken of, is coming from the Housing Opportunity Fund. And the job training and education work is a contribution from the County General Fund.
Is it a reflection of a better economy or just these funds?
Availability, particularly of the HOF, to meet the need that was identified by a particular task force on youth and young adult homelessness that we knew we needed to respond to, came out after the executive transmitted the budget to us, and essentially a stable general fund, not a flush general fund.
Any funding from Seattle, the city, for this place, and any discussions about Seattle taking part in this?
Youth Care's ask of the county was for the $120,000 contribution that we're happy to be making today, and the city is still immersed in their budget process.
So they got what they asked for?
From the county, yes.
Well, they have said that they might have to close their overnight shelter, and so this would hopefully help with that. But what is your feeling about them even being in this position where these young people, 18 to 24, who are lost in most of the circumstances, most of the programs that are available for youth, and older people don't account for them?
We have a real crisis, a real tragedy in addressing that need, and that's why we formed the task force to come up with recommendations. And not only are we meeting the immediate need, in large part due to federal and other cuts that Youth Care was experiencing, to make the investment here in keeping Youth Care's Orion Center open, but funding the work of the task force as well, that a number of private providers and nonprofits had already stepped up and funded parts of. We fund the rest of the task force recommendations.
How would you characterize the state legislature's failure to come up with a transportation bill?
Epic.
Well, the governor said on Sunday that he saw, maybe that was Saturday, he saw glimmers of hope. Has he shared those glimmers with you?
Larry?
The last conversation I had with Governor Inslee, he started this process not very hopeful, but he was much more hopeful that progress had been made. I think that's true. I think the Senate listening tour opened up a number of minds in Olympia that something must be done. Frankly, I think now there is a gap or a gulf between the House and the Senate in the best approach to this. But I do think that they've made great progress on a number of the elements of a comprehensive package. They're out of session again, which is unfortunate. My hope that they would have acted during this special session. But there is conversation perhaps on committee weekend, which I believe starts November 21st, that they would be able to continue those negotiations and come up with an agreed upon package. The governor's more hopeful, but we're not there yet, and I think he's the first to acknowledge that.
And when does Metro have to make its cuts? How close is this?
If the legislature does not act, the first cuts would occur along Alaska Way on the viaduct situation, and the loss of mitigation funds there would start in mid-June of this coming year, 2014. The proposed cuts by Metro Transit that we're looking at would be reviewed by the county council. If there's no new money coming our way, we would begin to see those cuts in the fall of next year.
I mean, should people who rely
2014.
should people who rely on public transportation, and these are not, there's a wide range of people who use public transportation in this area, should they just resign themselves to the fact that the county, the state, doesn't care about how they get around?
Well, let me correct you on one thing. The county cares deeply about this issue, passionately. That's why this was described as an epic situation with regard to the failure of the legislature to act. So, we've been at this for 5 years to save Metro. We have worked in a number of different ways. We have found, over a period of time, some $805 million to fill an existing transit gap. Those tricks are gone. We have no more reserves to call on. We have no more ability to raise fares. We are out of an ability to fill that $75 million annual budget gap. So we care deeply about it, which is why we put this issue in front of the legislature every single year for the last 3 years. We simply need them to act in order to save the system. But yes, any number of people in King County that rely on this system on a daily basis, especially getting to and from work, and that system will be threatened.
I'm assuming you all feel frustrated by this. What can the people do to get their state legislators past this and say that?
Write and call.
Write, call, email, contact your legislators.
What's that?
Email, write, call, contact your legislators. Let them know if this is important to you. If Metro Service is important to you, this is the time to be contacting your state legislators.
Is there anything more you all can do?
We're doing the same.
We're working overtime, raising this issue in the midst of what I think is a very good and productive budget for the people of King County. We have good news today, but we have unfinished business. So we raised it today as an issue that must continue to be dealt with, and we have to find effective solutions.
Are you optimistic that now that Boeing is putting some pressure on the legislature to pass a transportation package, maybe it finally gets done?
Personally, I thought this was a moment in time when we could make it happen. The Boeing legislation that was successfully concluded this weekend, I thought opened a door for that conclusion. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So now we'll have to wait till apparently the weekend of November 21st to find out if that additional pressure gets us to the point we need to have a comprehensive package with the local options to solve the metro problem.
Well, you may not be the ones to ask, but do the regular citizens have to have a B in front of their names in order to get the legislature to move as quickly as they did for Boeing?
Well, hopefully the legislature, particularly the Senate, would recognize that the people matter too with regard to getting to and from work and filling the great need in county roads as well. We simply can't have the state's economic engine suffer from these roads and transit deficits that the legislature is not addressing. They need to step up.
The roads do not get any cheaper the more that they are dissipated. So the curve of not being fully taken care of, the prices become much, much higher. There's a point score of 100 points, and after you get below 90 points, the cost to do those repairs becomes exponentially higher. So it's never going to get cheaper, and I believe that this leadership team for years has talked about the fact that we need transportation that is both transit and roads, and we have worked very hard. We all voted for the congestion relief fee, which was a difficult, heavy lift that we were told if we did that the following year, the legislature would come back with a package so that it wouldn't be just on the citizens of King County. So we are very concerned about that. In addition, I looked over the weekend at some proposals that are flying around, and one of the proposals had $50 million in it statewide for county roads, and we need $165 million in King County alone. So that is not adequate. So over the weekend, I needed to, contact our legislators. All of us are contacting our legislators with our input on a daily basis as we see new proposals coming out. It is something that we take very seriously, and we are all passionate about, all 9 of us.
And I just wanted to say, this is not just King County. King County is the economic engine of the state. And within King County, we export annually over $2 billion in economic improvements to the rest of the state. So as we're finding our careful recovery from the Great Recession, what we can do with roads and transit, it affects all of us. So this is not just about King County, it's about the whole state.
And if I could offer just one more thing in stark contrast to what you're seeing, in Washington, D.C., and now playing on Olympia, you see the philosophical breadth and depth of King County, from conservative to liberal to moderate. 3 of us served in the state legislature. What you're seeing here in terms of our budget process, we actually get around the table and face each other and talk with it weeks on end to sort through the executive's proposal and come up to the point we are today. It can be done successfully. So if nothing else, in terms of what you asked we could do, we're modeling for folks in Olympia a successful process to get this done. I think the people of King County need to recognize that there's a different way, even in tough economic times, even when we have regular shortfalls, you can meet the needs if you're willing to work on it. And that's the message to Olympia.
Question for the sheriff. I'm going to ask you about the new 8 deputies. Where are they going to be? What's the focus for them?
The new deputies will be patrol officers in unincorporated King County.
And how, I know over the last few years, the number of deputies has gone down, down, down. Is this enough, or is this just the beginning?
Well, hopefully this is just a beginning. I've said that I want to spend the next 10 years rebuilding the sheriff's office after the Great Recession, and this is a great start. You know, a wise man, or perhaps it was a woman, once said that it's not the words you say that I'll remember, it's what you do. And I think we need to remember what the county council and the budget leadership team has done here with this budget. They've started to rebuild the sheriff's office, and I thank them for that, but they haven't forgotten the social service agencies either, such as the Orion group here. We can't do it alone, and I've always said that the sheriff's office and the social service agencies need to go hand in hand in asking for funding. That's what we did, and that's what happened, and I can't thank them enough.
Will South King County, unincorporated King County, be safer?
Yes.
How can you explain that?
Unincorporated King County will be safer because there'll be more deputies on the road, and they'll save money because there'll be less overtime to pay. So it's what we call a win-win.
How
Well, how is it working now? I mean, is there, do you have a number that you would say at the end of 10 years, we should have this many deputies and we'll be in a very fabulous position?
I do.
What is that?
It's a secret. It's over the next 10 years. That's called strategy.
All right, so how many do you have now? I mean, how many do you have?
I have 659 commissioned officers inside the sheriff's office, and I'll have 8 more after the first of the year.
And that will make a substantial difference.
That'll make a difference.
Just a difference, not a
Yes,
substantial.
a difference. This is a 10-year rebuilding process. We've lost 150 positions in the sheriff's office over the last 5 or 6 years. We can't rebuild that overnight, but this is a start. And I thank the council, I thank the budget leadership team for allowing me to make that start. This is a great start. I'm very happy with this. No complaints here whatsoever. And they were able to do it while still being able to fund the social service agencies, which is just as important as funding the sheriff's office. Make no mistake about that.
Why?
Because we both, Councilmember Lambert said it best. I'll paraphrase what she said. The primary responsibility of government is to keep people safe. We keep people safe. The Orion Center keeps people safe. Other social service agencies keep people safe. That's the job of government, and that's happening with this budget. Okay?
And thank you. And with that, we're going to wrap it up so we can be on time to our 11 o'clock council meeting. Thank you.